We've all seen our fair share of ugly cars. Pontiac Aztek, Chrysler PT Cruiser and Nissan Juke are just some of them. No matter how horrific they are to look at, you can't look away. Just like a car crash. But none of these are even able to hold a candle to a king of ugly cars known as the Fiat Multipla. And that one became a legend, because there was a method to its madness. And we'll get to that, but first let's laugh at it. While the exterior is crazy for obvious reasons, I want to look at interior first, because I feel like that's where the designer started as well, while hopped up on LSD. You can forget about any resemblance of elegance and harmony. Here's the most unsettling arrangement that you can think of. Designers were obsessed with storage cubbies, to the extent of moving a gauge cluster to the side just to give you a bit more space behind the steering wheel. And the rest of the car follows suit. The door handles look like they've been stolen off of hospital beds, and the 3x3 seating arrangement is there because 6 is bigger than 5, and bigger always means better. And while that interior is a chaotic masterpiece, the exterior is what the car is really known for, and there are good reasons for it. It's a well-known fact that cars are supposed to have a face, so Fiat designers decided that with Multipla they wanted their car to look like Sid from Ice Age, or a duck. They couldn't decide, so they did both. You've also heard of gradual slopes and lines that come together seamlessly. Well, with Multipla you just get a rectangle on top of a larger rectangle. And you know how with modern cars the rear windows come together with the sloping roofline to make it a nice fit? Not with Multipla. Square windows everywhere. Even the taillights had to be special, so they put bubbles inside. All joking aside, while it's always really fun to look at Multipla and appreciate all the ways it's really weird in, I think that it's actually one of the most practical and best cars of its era. And I don't think that any car other than it could achieve what it set out to do. So let's actually take a closer look into the hidden genius of it all. To understand the Multipla, we need to understand the car market in the 90s first. It was just a different breed. While today the main selling points of a car are looks, performance and technology, back then one of these so-called boring cars started a revolution. You may have heard of Renault Espace, with its revolutionary 7-seater configuration and modularity of taking the seats in and out depending on the need. It was almost an instant hit, offering practicality unseen in the family car world. Yet it was hardly a looker. No man would be caught dead in one today, no matter how weak their pull-out game is. So given that the general public's wallets screamed practicality rather than luxury, all major brands got in on the action. But you might have noticed that these all have something in common. They're all giant and they couldn't really be daily driven in tiny European centers. So Fiat, whose best cars are arguably the tiny ones, decided to get in on the action. They decided to build a baby Espace that could be dailied around town. The only issue is that Renault had already beaten them to it with Scenic, so they had to go above and beyond. The task of making a tiny MPV even better than the Scenic seemed impossible, but after years and years of thinking and developing, by November of '98 the Multipla was alive. To make it work, designers made some interesting choices that in the end provided 90% of practicality offered by bigger Espace and its lookalikes, while cutting the car's size by half a meter, making a 6-seater that was shorter than the Golf of the same era. And while they were at it, it was able to fit double the stuff inside as well. I mean, do you know of any Golf that could fit 3 people, their bikes, their equipment, and their tents inside as well? I didn't think so. So how did they manage to do this? Well, simply put, they made it really tall and wide. Also, that vomit-inducing center console helped, as it enabled a middle row seat that was just as comfortable as the other ones. But there was so much more to this car. We already mentioned the cubby behind the steering wheel. And it's really wide, so it could probably fit an entire foot long. But be warned, your subs might end up looking like this. You might be dissatisfied with only seeing a single cup holder in front. Well, guess what? That genius middle seat also converts to an entire picnic table, with more cup holders than anyone should reasonably need. Unless you're one of those weirdos collecting water bottles. Even better, you can do the same thing in the rear. So if you want to fit an entire 6-foot giant sub inside, that's more than easy to do. Also, all the seats slide forward and backward, and the rear ones can be taken out fairly easily. That gave you the ability to carry a 60-inch TV, a wardrobe, or even a fully grown pig if that's what you need. And it could do that without batting an eye. So I hope that at least now, those interior design choices make more sense to you. But what about the exterior? What function could this possibly have? Well, it's really simple. The visibility. You probably noticed that kids don't really like to be driven around. They get bored or even sick in some cases, and that's not because they're brain rotted by their iPads. It's because they can't see anything. While new cars have tiny windows starting really high up the belt line, when Multipla was being made, people's enjoyment was preferred over looking good. So they decided to lower the windows to where children could actually see outside. And this made the outside just as appealing as a trip to the aquarium, where it looks like nothing else, and not in a good way. But sitting inside without feeling like you're trapped on a submarine brings joy to everyone. And while most of the competitor MPVs did have the same spaciousness, driving inside them also reminded you of being on the sea, just in a different way. Their handling was really loose, like their suspension was made out of marshmallows, given how soft it was. Multipla was much better in that regard. It handled just as well as a normal car, and it wasn't a drag to drive either. Also, it was a proper city car, with a turning circle of just 11 meters, which was the same as the Golf of the era. Multipla was really maneuverable, almost like a shopping cart. And only super minis could beat it around town. I don't think that I've ever heard of a Multipla owner complaining that the car was stupidly built, uncomfortable, or bad. Most even regret selling it, despite none of them defending its looks. So, was this car successful? Across its lifespan, around 400,000 people decided to give Multipla a chance, which only goes to show that there's hope for everyone. These numbers could be considered a failure, especially compared to its counterparts like the Scenic, but overall the sales are surprising. It's also worth mentioning that Multipla had a facelift in 2004, which just made it lose its character. It kept the same amazing interior, but on the outside it just became like a Fiat of the time. And those really weren't that good looking. That facelifted version did stick around just as much as the first one, so it stuck around until 2010 before the plug was being pulled. And with the MPV trend slowly dying down, its successor never arrived. If you're interested in one, it might be a struggle to find one where you live. Across Europe there are only a few hundred being sold right now, and they're mostly in Italy. Also, a large chunk of them are the newer Multiplas, so if you're looking for a special one, it might take some searching. But it's worth to wait, and I really wish that a good one would come up near me eventually. Have you ever driven a Multipla? What are your thoughts on it? I really want to get one someday, so if you're interested in that, make sure to like and subscribe so that you can see it live on the channel, because you never know when it may appear. Thanks for watching, I'll see you soon, and goodbye.